Welcome. This is For Better and Worth.
The podcast where we don't believe you have to sacrifice your relationship while you grow and build your net worth.
We are your hosts.
I'm Chris.
And I'm Ericka Young. And we're so glad you're joining us today.
All right, y'all. Let's get into it.
Hey, honey. I'm glad to be sitting across from you today.
So am I. We are always getting back in it.
Yes.
Getting back in it. Getting back at it. So.
That's right. And we are coming up on the new year. And every new year, people have new goals, new things that they want to do for a fresh slate, a new calendar. And I think that us discussing goal setting is a really good way to help make sure that people have some framework for that part of the process.
I wish people ended the year with goals instead of always trying to start the year with goals.
I think in December, people like literally scratch everything. They're like, forget it. I don't feel like doing this. I'm not interested.
Caution to the wind.
They do. And I'm not going to kid you. Like sometimes we have done that where it's just like, all right, forget it. I don't feel like doing. And you want to check out. You really want to.
I know there have been years where I felt like Santa Chris.
Yes.
He is Kris Kringle. And I was feeling like, Chris Claus or something. Cause I was just like, I'm just going to be generous. I'm buying everything.
Yeah.
And then, we were like, hold on, why do we buy everything?
Right. I mean, I like to term it like having a holiday hangover. That's typically what ends up happening. And then we're all excited about the new year and doing something different. And so I think it's important that we kind of have the conversation about what that looks like to do that as a couple, as a team together.
I'm getting myself ready for all the people who are going to be coming to the gym because they got new goals.
That's right.
Oh, I'm going to work out. I'm going to get in shape. And they just clogging the gym up now.
So, see, you know what? Yeah.
You're going to do it. Stay committed to it, people.
Yeah, you're right. The people who are going to have goals around weight loss, around paying off
money.
Debt, around New Year. I know the single folks out there, New Year, new man, you know what I mean? Like
they say New Year, new you.
That's right.
Or is it New Year, new boo? I don't know, but
no. Listen.
I got my New Year, my old boo.
Wait a minute. I'm not old. Wait, see, let's rewind.
New Year, my same boo.
I don't know.
New Year, let's just keep moving.
Yeah, because I don't know how you going to fix that.
I love you, baby.
Okay, say that again with that deep voice.
There you go. I love you, baby.
All right now. Okay, keep that up in the new year. Keep that up.
So, there we go. Problem solved, people. Problem solved.
Yeah, just put on the Barry White.
Little relationship resolution right there on the spot for you all.
That's right. So, dang, now I'm distracted.
See, fellas, it works. It works. So let's do this. Let's kick it off this way. What's the best way that you would say, couples can set joint financial goals?
Well, honestly, it stems from what you want personally. I think it would be good for people to think about what it is they want and then share that with their partner instead of starting the process together. Because if you don't have clarity for yourself, then you're going to bring confusion to the conversation. So I honestly think it's a good idea to do your own self-reflection and figure out what it is that you want and then share that and see where there's alignment or where you kind of need some help as a team.
That's a very good way to start off because if you come into it and you have goals that are drastically different than my goals, we're already at odds from the get-go, and you're not going to be able to accomplish the big thing. So I think that's important, but I also think that in setting those personal goals, you have to be thinking about, like, what do you want to accomplish as a couple over the course of a year or, even if you set quarterly goals, I was in sales for a long time and goals reset every quarter. And so I think sometimes you can have short-term goals that you revisit every quarter, but then you have long-term goals for the year. And those quarterly goals should be leading you towards that long-term goal. And so I think as a couple, you can do, like you said, your personal goal, but I think you should be thinking about short-term and long-term goals that you want to see accomplished together.
Yeah.
Because that's a perfect way to take some of the personal goals and then put them in that long-term plan, because it might just be something you focus on for a quarter personally, and then it will help you accomplish the long-term goal.
So you mentioned potentially being at odds. I'm curious on how you think that could happen. And do you ever feel like we have been at odds with some of our goals, where one may bump up against the other, and maybe it's not advantageous to to have that conversation yet because you haven't kind of worked out how they're not in alignment.
I think we have experienced that. And what is so funny about it is that though we were at odds, it was for the good of both of us.
Mm-hmm.
Because remember, there were a couple of times when all I wanted to do was save.
Yeah, and I thought you were, Noah in the ark. Like, we about to you about to build an ark because it's about to come raining. And
And you could not understand, like, why do you want to just save all this money?
and the reason I was like that was because I knew that it required us to like tighten our belt. There might be other things that we could not do. And so it wasn't the goal itself I was annoyed with. It was what it meant to get there.
Right. What you were going to feel like you had to give up.
Exactly.
And we were at odds because you didn't want to give up some things because you wanted to do, what you want to do. Either it was entertainment or travel or some level of spending. And for a season, I was like, no.
You
I was sounding like a 3-year-old. Like, no.
You had your heels dug in, and I didn't understand it. And for me, how I decided to relinquish control, if you will, over how that played out was I had to decide it's not a bad idea to save more money. So I had to say his goal is not bad. The way I'm interpreting how it's going to affect me in this season is not healthy. But the goal itself is not bad. So he's not doing anything to harm the family. He's trying to do something that's going to help the family. And that helped me get over I'm going to say it myself. Don't you say it. Okay. Don't you repeat what I said, but I'm going to say it. But how I was whining about how it was going to affect me to try and accomplish this goal. And I think, and then I believe,
you heard it here first, people.
Whatever. I'm just saying it so that no one else has to say it. Okay. That's what I'm saying. Okay. And then the other thing is, I really feel like then that gives an opportunity for us to figure out if that is the big picture goal, how can I still find resolution for what it is that I'm on? And I had to think about and be able to articulate what I felt I was missing out on and how do we still make some of that happen, right? And so, if it was travel, then how big of a trip, or maybe there's something different in terms of a getaway. I don't specifically remember because it was at least 10, 12 years ago when that occurred, that big difference, happened.
There were a couple times that it happened in our lives, and there were time gaps in between them. And just sitting here now, I feel like if I had to go back to those times, I would have articulated better what it was I was feeling or what it was I was thinking as to why we needed to do what I was saying we needed to do. Because in some ways, I didn't fully have clarity around why.
Yeah.
It was just a couple of those. I mean, when those big times came, it wasn't like, well, we need to do this because of this. I didn't have any premonition around something coming, but I just had a knowing, and as a leader of the family, I just felt like, no, we need to prepare.
Yeah.
And it almost goes back to like those biblical times where, in seasons of plenty, you gotta prepare for, seasons of famine. And I knew something was coming, and I just couldn't even really verbalize it to you to help further articulate why we were doing it. All I knew is that we needed to do this. And here's the funny part. We realized years later
Yeah,
what it was,
exactly.
because one was we were going to buy a house in a shorter period of time because we were going to be moving from one state to another, and we needed to have a significant down payment. And we hadn't even really planned for that, but we had been planning for that.
Right.
And so we were able to do it, put, 20% down or whatever, and it made it work for us in that moment. And the other time we were doing it, we had a car like just go kaput.
Yeah.
And we had to take the money that we had been saving and put it into another car. And so it worked out for us in the long term. But I think as people are listening to this, as best fellas, this is all right, ladies. Just take your headset off right now or turn.
No. See, don't you start no stuff. Don't start
No,
no. What
no.
you about
This
to
is
say?
this is for the benefit
Oh,
of the
don't
ladies.
say nothing crazy now.
Look, what I'm saying is that, fellas, to the best of your abilities, explain what it is you're thinking, what you're feeling, why you're making a particular decision, if you're digging your feet in, because then you can help bring your spouse along with you. And the same thing goes for the ladies out there. If you're standing and your feet are dug in, do your very best to explain to your partner the why behind it, because you'll get better buy-in on the other side.
And you know what? I'll be honest and say, like, we trusted one another. So
Yep.
I think the other part of this is that I knew that what we were trying to do was always for our good and to help us advance and progress. And I remember in our early days when we were trying to get out of debt, I would be so mentally like, so you were the person who wanted more money in savings, and I was the person at that time who was like, we got to pay off debt. We got to pay off debt. And I would, want to put so much money. If I was going to sacrifice something, it was to pay off debt. And I was like, we got to put this money on it. And so, like, you might get a bonus. And in my mind, I've spent 80% of that to pay off debt.
I was like, whoa, big fella.
Exactly. You would say that. And so I was trying to be super aggressive on the get out of debt goal. And you were in alignment with the goal. You were just thinking it didn't have to be so aggressive. And what we ended up adopting during that time was that we would have a certain amount that we would either spend on clothing or on stuff around the house every time you got a commission, in addition to the majority of it going towards debt reduction, but not all of it going towards debt reduction. And so there was a little bit of compromise there. And I think it's important that when you have these goals, you might have those mini run-ins, right? Because in the
Right.
beginning of the year, when you're like, yeah, I want to pay off this amount of debt, but when money comes in or you get a tax refund or there's a bonus or this check was a little bit bigger, and then you have to make the choice how you align to that big picture goal, that is in action the reality that you're faced with. And those are the things that we had to deal with when we weren't 100% in agreement on what to do, but we did think that the goals were good and they were going to help us advance.
So I think, like, when we talk about strategies that we've used in the past that really help to motivate each other when dealing with financial decisions or difficulties, one of the strategies that we've always used is we have a budget, a monthly budget, but then I know on the budget tab we have kind of like this we have all these other tabs where one might be travel and one might be, hey, if we get extra money, here is the running list of things that we will defer to. And we just go back and forth with that and align on what should be on that list. And I think that's a strategy that a lot of people should start utilizing is,
Mm-hmm.
in addition to your budget, have kind of like your dream list. Like, hey, with extra money, this is what would be first, this would be second, this would be third. And, make sure that you can refer back to that, because
Mm-hmm.
that's an easy way to, not get off track and get away from your goals. And as part of the general, the standard operating procedure per se, you should be, give, save, spend,
Mm-hmm.
and we're big about giving, we're big about, saving, and then we look to spend.
Right.
And if you kind of operate in that manner, you can, give, then you can save, be it retirement, be it an emergency fund, be it a particular purchase, and then look at spending.
Mm-hmm.
And when extra comes in, then you go to that additional
Yeah.
list that says if it's a home renovation or repair or a luxury or a necessity, you have it on that other list. And that's a way I think a lot of people, if you think about doing it that way, that could help put down a lot of disagreements or skirmishes that can arise.
And that's a good point. I think when we're considering the future, even if it's 3 months or 6 months out, one of the things that is important is to make sure that your partner feels heard. And when you mention something that we have to do in the future, and I put it down and I'm like, all right, so here's our running list, as you mentioned.
Yep.
You've said some things or I've thought of some things or what have you, and we have this list and we both feel like what we want is important. That is vital to the relationship, because when you go back and you say, oh, okay. And I know there have been times when, you know, yeah, when you've gotten a bonus or something, and you wanted another gun or something, and I'm like, shoot.
Oh, wait, hold on. Don't put my business out here in
This
the
is
world.
you. Haven't we talked about this already? Haven't we talked about this already?
Look, just people don't run up on me, people.
but that's not my thing, right?
Yeah.
That's not my thing. But when it's on there and that's important to you, then that's something that we need to discuss.
It's interesting you bring this up, because here's the first thing that it brought to my mind, because like we have always had, and people who listen to the show, they know that we started out together young, we had single accounts, we're proponents of that. But when you have different income earners in relationships, people still feel like my money is my money. I earn this money. If it's a bonus or, people cash in stock or whatever, get a commission or whatever, people tend to feel like this is my money. And we've always brought money and put it in the same pot. But I think sometimes that was a way for me to be able to get a reward for my hard work. Like, hey, here's something extra that I want to do. It doesn't have anything to do with the goals. It doesn't have anything to do with the plan. This is just, I get this bonus. I want to do something to reward myself for the hard work. And you and I talk about it, but I think if people are honest and, real with themselves and their relationships, sometimes you got to let your partner just do that. If they've earned a big bonus and they want to just do something to reward themselves. But, you just got to still be on the same page, the same team. So.
For sure. And I think that keeps the buy-in.
Yeah.
Right. So you had a sales career for many, many years. You were getting bonuses and things like that. And we've never operated where one of us is telling the other what to do or what they can or cannot do. That's not how we've ever operated. But when we're looking at the budget and we're looking at our goals, it's easy to almost feel like, hold on a second, you're not going to spend all of this money. You know what I mean?
Right.
Even if it's on the goals that we said we wanted together. And so I think that keeps the buy-in for both parties. When dollars are coming in and you're like, you know what is important to you becomes important to me, and vice versa. That it helps the relationship in addition to advancing goals. But I call it buy-in because if you don't do it, then somebody could sabotage all of the plans.
Look, we go back to that one band, one sound.
Yes.
We're operating on the same page because we can both be looking at the same sheet music, but if we're playing different things and we're not playing in unison or we're not doing it at our effective time, then it's going to sound like a whole bunch of noise versus making music.
Yeah.
And I think that's where people have to realize, hey, we're one band. We're trying to make one sound. We're one team, one dream. Whatever analogy you want to use, that's what people have to remember. It's not like my goal, your plan, my plan. It's like our plan.
Yeah.
Because together, what does it say? I'm just full of these old school
It's
euphemisms.
do you know?
Together, everyone accomplishes more.
Yes, that part. Teamwork. Yes, I knew that's where you were going.
That's because we a team.
Yes, we think as one. Sometimes we finish each other's sentences.
It's weird though. Sometimes it's like, get your own brain.
I know. Yeah.
Same brain. This my brain. Use your brain.
That's what our daughter says. She's like, ew, that's so weird. How did you do that? How did you know that? It's like,
right,
yeah,
like how are you finishing her sentences? How is she finishing your sentences?
I have been with you longer than I was with my parents at this point.
Look, same brain, same mindset.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so this is a side journey, people. That's why, being matched with the right person is so important.
Yes.
Because
Woo.
you can do so much, and it is so much easier, and there is a lot less headache when you're on the same page.
I got another podcast idea, husband.
All right, write it down. Don't tell the people just yet.
No, I think we should tease it.
Okay, go for it.
Red flags before you say I do.
Look,
Financial red flags.
Look, I like that idea.
So I want to give some tips. Just a couple of tips on goal setting. And, I really think it's important to write it down. I have always been a person, and I don't know. I think it's important that not only do you think about what it is that you want, but you physically write it. There's something, you are much more likely to actually accomplish it if you write it down. And then you put in some systems in place to help make sure. You mentioned, breaking it down quarterly, what needs to happen quarterly in order for you to reach the year-long goal, that kind of stuff. So I think writing it down and checking in on your goals is important, and making sure that you're not trending in a different direction unknowingly. Right? So checking in on those goals is important. And sometimes you might need to shift midstream. Sometimes the goals actually change midstream. You're at June and you're like, you know what? Something's different now, or you different job, or somebody had a baby, or you moved, whatever it is. Who knows?
Life starts lifing.
Life happens, and then you're like, wait a minute, the goal is now different, and don't waste time. Just simply don't waste time, and make sure that you're still tracking to what it is that you desire in that moment.
That's where it comes back to what I continue to say: progress over perfection.
Yeah.
Because none of this stuff is as clean or as easy as, it may appear. And as long as you're continuing to make progress, because there's things that can help you make progress, and there's things that can detract that progress. And continuing to communicate, to express your thoughts, and hearing your partner's thoughts and what they're expressing. That's how you make progress, because though you may not agree 100% or all the time, a lot of times you're going to be closer together than you are further apart. And for those times that you are far apart, it just may take more communication, more understanding of why this is important versus something else that can help get you back on track and get you closer to a point of alignment where you can move forward. And so I think those are just some of the things that you have to fundamentally always be thinking about, is that how are we going to make this progress? Though it may not look perfect, but goal setting has to be at the center of it, because that always gives you something to go back and look at.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So what are some of your tips that you would give to people around goal setting? I mentioned writing it down and checking in on it, on a regular basis. What else would you say?
I would say there's probably two things I'd say. One, like I was just getting into, we said have personal goals, and support what that looks like for your partner. Find out what's important to them, and then see how that can align to the overall goals that you have together. But we have to support each other, because I want to see you accomplish your financial goals, whatever that may be, as I want to accomplish mine. because then we have things that are combined.
Mm-hmm.
And our independable.
What is that, babe? Is
I
that a
have
new
no
word?
idea,
That's a new
but
word.
though you have personal goals, they don't tend to be far off from the goals that we have that are combined. And the other thing I would say is don't do something to blow the whole thing up and sabotage it. You're throwing, grenades into the middle of your goal setting and planning process by, I don't feel well, or something's going on. I'm just going to go to the mall, and you're going to do retail therapy. Then it blows the budget up.
Mm-hmm.
Or you go and you start doing some behind the back secret things, or tucking money away. And I think I was watching I don't know, I saw this on Facebook or something, and it was a guy who came home and he had found out his wife, who I don't think she worked, I think she was a homemaker, and he was the sole income provider. She had been taking money and putting it into another account, and it was like $22,000
Uh-oh.
that was in this account.
She trying to walk away?
Well, she didn't say she was trying to walk away. She was like, I just need to be protected in case something happens. I need to have something to, if something happens, I need something to fall back on.
That
He was like,
is
that is crazy.
it's common though, but honey, that's a whole episode right there, husband.
Right. But I thought it was crazy because he was the one who was, and he was like upset because he was saying, I work 10, 12 hours a day, and you're taking the money that I'm earning for us and putting it into an account that has just your name on it.
It's a security gland that is off kilter for women
Yes.
who are not income earners. And it's common. One, most of the time I actually see that women feel that they want to do that, but they don't actually do it.
And she did it to the tune of 20 plus grand.
And that's not being upfront with your partner about the goals that you have. There's something else going on with how she feels about that relationship too. I would imagine.
I think that's a relationship grenade right there. 'Cause
right there.
That
But at
would
least,
blow things up.
I will tell you though, at least she wasn't using credit cards and going into debt on the side.
Yeah.
So so I will say that. But you're right. There's something more to that story. But I'm curious, babe, like what are some of your goals for 2024? Because I don't feel like we've yet together like had this conversation. We talk all the time and I have an idea, but I feel like I would like to know, what are your goals?
Well, I think some of my 2024 goals are goals that lead into some of my bigger goals. And I talk about long term and short term. But in 2024, we're very close to having our home paid off, and I would
Whoop,
like to
whoop.
see I'd like to see that either done or very close to being done
That'll
in
be amazing.
2024.
That'll be amazing.
Yeah, because we're well ahead of plan, and and that's really the only debt that we have. Not really, that is the only debt that we have outstanding, and that amount is getting smaller when you talk about the purchase of a home in 2023 or 2024. So that is a big goal for me, to continue to get rid of that. And I've been just thinking about life and what that can look like longer term. But I think another goal that I have in 2024 is to take a big family vacation, us and the kids, and because that's where we like to spend money. I know I like that, you like that, and that's where I'd rather spend money doing that, because that creates connectedness, and we create memories, and those are the things that are so important to me. And so I know those are just a couple things that I'm thinking about in 2024, and I know we'll get more specific as we get closer to 2024. But what are some of the goals that you have personally?
So, what's funny is we've had these conversations, but I'm going to say one other thing that you didn't mention is we did a renovation in 2023, and just one room basically with a little spillover, and we want to do these bathrooms. Like we want to spend money to like upgrade our bathrooms. And since we're doing it with cash, we're not taking money out of the house. That all does not happen at the same time, right? And so that is something I do want to see happen in 2024. And I'm with you. I'm with you on the other two goals, but I actually think for me, the family vacation, like travel, will always be one of the top priorities. And I usually say, like, when we're talking goal setting, don't have 10. Don't have, as a couple, for sure, do not have 10.
No way.
You could have financial goal, your own personal financial goals, your professional goals, your, healthy, living goals. You can have stress reducing goals. You can have lots of goals in different areas of your life. But as a couple, you probably ought to have two or three.
Yeah.
You should figure out what is the highest priority thing. And if I'm, looking at the bigger picture, definitely the family travel, definitely the renovating our bathrooms. And the one that I think for me has fallen off of my goals, it would affect the family, but it's for me. I don't think I really want to do it in 2024, is to get another vehicle. And that, I realized, is not as important as these other things. And it's going to cost more. So it's like, no. That doesn't have to be. I would rather pay the house off for sure than get a car.
Those are trade-offs that I think people
is.
have to be willing to make. Like, we don't have to buy another vehicle right now.
That's right.
And maybe we can defer that to 2025, especially because we operate by cash. And if we'd rather spend that money on family vacation and a reno, then maybe that makes more sense. Because, or if we decide next year that, well, maybe we want to do the car and we're going to push something else off, it's just trade-offs, because it's going to stay on that dream tab, or that bigger goal tab that we have that's part of our budget. We're going to have travel, we're going to have house, we're going to have renovations, we're going to have car purchase, and maybe a couple of other things that we will talk about and shuffle the order on that list.
I think it's hard to call something a priority if there's 10 of them.
Right.
And so, usually you and I have, like I said, two or three things that are like the highest priority. And that's why in my mind, the car came off.
Right.
And then I'm like, all right, God, I know he going to blow up the business and do all the things. And so when those things occur, then things can be put back on.
Come back onto the list.
A higher priority. But in my mind, and this is what I was saying, we were talking to somebody just today, actually. And I was like, I don't want to go see vehicles.
Because then you get the car fever.
I don't want to, because I don't want to get car fever. Yep. So I'm going to wait. And it's fine. Nothing is wrong with my vehicle. And by the time, if I do wait until 2024, I mean, it's going to be what, 9 years old? No, 2025. It's going to be 10 years old. Is it 10 years?
It'll be 10 years in, but
it's
a great vehicle.
It's a great vehicle. But that's the thing. Like, it's not, it doesn't matter to me to wait. I thought that that's something that I wanted a few months ago. And now I'm like, oh, I want these other things more.
Yeah. And that's why I said, like, we may have the top 3 priorities, but I feel like there's a list of things that are just ongoing, and the order shuffles.
Yeah.
For what's in the top 3. Things may fall down below number 3, but for me, they're still on the list. They just may not be a right now thing. And I think that's where, if you hear nothing else in this, that's where discipline comes in.
Woo!
Because you could go and say, I'm going to do all of this, but then you end up taking car loans, or you end up going in debt, or, you have credit cards that are maxed out because you're trying to live in the moment versus going back to your goal setting. So,
and that's a good point, Chris, because I feel like a couple of months ago, I was pretty firm. I was like, oh yeah, I want this car. I want a car. I hadn't actually decided on a car. But if I had been impulsive, that would have potentially sabotaged some other things, because we do operate in cash. That meant something else couldn't get done. And then what I have had regrets, because I realized, because I slept on it, we waited, we're like, oh, this will be a goal in 3 or 4 months. now my perspective has changed now that we have waited. And I think when we're impulsive, that is something that can sabotage goals for a team. And so I think that I'm glad that you brought that up, because it is on the list, but it's
Right.
not something that for me matters enough to push something else off that list.
So let's talk about this make it worth it. And so for me, with make it worth it, I think that people have to have a goal that they want to accomplish for the year, but then I think you have to break that down into bite sizes and approach that on a quarterly basis on what you're going to do, and have that running list of things that are big term, longer term things that you want to accomplish, but maybe you have that on the side, and like we just talked about, they come up and they come off, they come up and down the list as far as priorities as they shift and adjust. So, for me, to make it worth it, have a long term overall goal, but then break that down into bite sized pieces and maybe do that on a quarterly basis. So, what would you say is your make it worth it?
Is expect that you're not going to always see 100% eye to eye on your goals, and know that it you might end up either making some trade-offs, which I think is a really good way to put it. I much prefer that term to compromise, because it sort of is this, somebody's not going to get something or what have you. But when you look at a trade-off, it's more so for the big picture, advancing the whole team, versus somebody gets something and somebody doesn't. And I think that is important when you're thinking about when you're not 100% in alignment. It's like, okay, the big picture is still being realized, and how quickly are we able to get that done as a team. So making it worth it, just consider the trade-offs, but also know that your big picture is still going to get accomplished. So this has been good, babe.
Yeah, I think this has been great.
Yeah, this was helpful for me, because I feel like, this helps us figure out our own, process, if you will, on our goals too. So this has been good kicking it with you, honey.
So until next time,
We're out.
thank you for spending some of your time with us today.
We appreciate all of your support. So be sure to subscribe, rate, and review us wherever you listen to this podcast.
You can find us on Instagram at For Better and Worth.
And sign up to receive our free guide, The 7 Reasons Your Money Relationship Isn't Working with Your Partner, on forbetterandworth.com.
Until next time, we're out of here.